Come on back, brothers and sisters. We're going to finish this. Once again, forgive me for the inconvenience. I will have my stuff eventually. Eventually, I will have things in order, but we're going to finish this today. Y'all can bear with me. We will finish this because we got to get this understanding out here, right? So, what did we say? Come on back in. My bad, family. This thing just keeps shutting off. I don't understand. I don't know if my phone don't have enough power or whatever. I'm just going to have to get that together, right? So we're in Revelations 13, and once again, what I was telling people is that we are all not going to make it to the place of safety. But it's just the reality, right? And you have to have that in your mind frame. What if I get left behind, right? I'm not going to try to get left behind, but what if I get left behind, right? And that is something that should be on your brain. Don't be thinking, have a plan B. That's all I'm telling people. Have a plan B. Just like in life, have a plan B. We may not all make it to the wilderness, brothers and sisters, right? So what we're doing is we're separating these wildernesses, right? Because people have gotten confused on this, right? So if we're reading Revelations 12, we're seeing that is the place of safety, which is the 1,260 days of the tribulation. We just happen to go into the wilderness in the place of safety and will be hid there for those 42 months. But guess what? Christ still has to come back and finish the 70 weeks. He still has to come back to finish the last 3.5 years, brothers and sisters, right? So that is what we are going to deal with next. Let us go to Matthew, the 24th chapter. We're going back to Matthew, the 24th chapter, so you can see this clearly that they are not the same time period, right? There's one before the tribulation, and then there's one immediately after the tribulation, right? Let's go back to Matthew, the 24th chapter. Matthew, the 24th chapter, and we're going to pick this back up at verse 29. Matthew, the 24th chapter, and we're going to pick this up at verse 29. Matthew, the 24 and 29. And verse 29 reads, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken." How do we know that these are not the same time period? Because in the beginning of the tribulation, brothers and sisters, Christ has not returned yet. So he has to return to bring you into the wilderness so that he can teach you for the remaining of the 70 weeks, for that remaining 3.5 years of that week, right? He has to be down here to teach you. So you have one before the tribulation, there should be great tribulation in that time, and we just showed you what was going to be happening in the tribulation for those 42 months. Now, immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. This is when we know that Christ is coming back for the second coming, right? Verse 30. "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." Here it is. "And he shall send his angel with the great sound of the trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds and from the end of the earth, from the end of heaven to the other." Right? So he's going to gather together his elect. Now, this is the ingathering, brothers and sisters. He's going to gather together his elect from the four corners of the earth. But is he going to take them immediately to the kingdom? No. Right? Now you remember those people that made it in a place of safety, and then Christ comes back. They didn't make it to the first resurrection, brothers and sisters, because they're going to come down and help Christ destroy all the wickedness on the earth. Now we are now going to Ezekiel, the 20th chapter, because we're going to see where he's going to bring his elect from the four corners of the earth. Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. Ezekiel, the 20th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 30. Ezekiel 20, and we are going to start at verse 13. Ezekiel 20 and verse 30. 20 and 30. And verse 30 reads, Wherefore say unto the house of Israel, Thus saith the Lord God, Are ye polluted after the manner of your fathers, and commit ye whoredom after their abominations? Yeah, that's why we in this position in the first place, right? Because we are. Verse 31, For when ye offer your gifts, when ye make your sons to pass through the fire, ye pollute yourselves with all your idols, even unto this day, brothers and sisters, right? And shall I be inquired of by you, O house of Israel? As I live, saith the Lord God, I will not be inquired of by you. And that which cometh into your mind shall not be at all, that ye say, We will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries, to serve wood and stone. Verse 33, As I live, saith the Lord God, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. So you know, brothers and sisters, that this is immediately after the tribulation that he's going to do this, right? But then he said he's going to bring you out of the countries. He's not going to do that before the tribulation. He's going to bring you immediately after the tribulation, out of the countries where you've been scattered. He's going to gather you, right? The end gathering, right? Which is what the 70 weeks points to, right? And he said he's going to do it with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. And he's in verse 35, he said, I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Lord, and I will cause you to pass under the rod, and will bring you into the bond of the covenant. This is when he will finish his last 3.5 years of his ministry, brothers and sisters, when he's bringing you everybody into the bond of the covenant, right? And what will he do once he does that? Verse 38, and I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me, and I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord, because he will kill you if you transgress against him in this wilderness, brothers and sisters, right? Just like he did, he said, I'm going to plead with you, right? That ain't nothing soft. He said, I'm going to plead with you, meaning that I'm going to teach you, but if you don't get this thing right, I'm going to kill you, right? It's plain, it's plain, brothers and sisters. He's not playing with you, right? He says he's not going to let you enter into the land of Israel if you get purged out because you transgress, right? So let's go to the last two places. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 23rd chapter. Jeremiah 23. Jeremiah 23, and we're going to start at verse 1. Jeremiah, the 23rd chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. Jeremiah 23 and verse 1. So this is a warning to the people that's out there teaching you, pastors. This is a warning to you. Out of all these things that has happened to the children of Israel, you are the ones that allowed it to happen. And so all my teachers out there, and I'm talking to myself as well. That's why I'm so serious about making sure that I give y'all the most accurate breakdown that I possibly can, right? And I pray to the Lord God that he keeps me in his grace so that he allows me to do that, because I'm not doing this for my own glory. And you should not be doing this for your own glory, brothers and sisters, right? We got to make it to the kingdom, and we got to keep from getting into this lake of fire. That is what we're in this for, right? We're not in here to be cute, and we're not in here to be liked by our peers, right? We want to get into the kingdom. I hope we want to get into the kingdom, right? Jeremiah 23 and 1. And verse 1 reads, woe be unto you, the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith the Lord. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of Israel against the pastors that feed my people. Ye have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doing, saith the Lord. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries whither they have been driven, and I will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase, right? He gonna bring them back to the land of Israel, brothers and sisters. Once again, he got to purge them in the wilderness to finish off his ministry before they go into the kingdom, right? Let us skip down to verse 5. Verse 5 reads, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely, right? The ingathering, brothers and sisters. In the ingathering, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. So we know that our Messiah, our King, Jesus, he is going to come and gather us from the four corners of the earth. And if we get past the purging, that's if you do end up in that time frame in the wilderness, you will get into the land of Israel, brothers and sisters. That is what this is about, right? But you want to try to make it to the place of safety so you can really be good. But like I said, we want to do the best that we can. And brothers and sisters, if you don't make it to the place of safety, that is your test. Don't get upset with the Lord. Do what you got to do to make it in the kingdom. This is serious. This is very serious, right? Verse 7. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land, brothers and sisters. And that is the end result of us going through this 70 weeks and getting gathered by our Messiah, because we've been in captivity under these Gentiles, these Europeans, since Nebuchadnezzar, since 605 BCE, brothers and sisters, right? Because that's when Nebuchadnezzar ruled the world. But the Most High said in 609 BCE, which was that 70 years, brothers and sisters, that I have given all these lands and I have given these countries to the hand of Nebuchadnezzar. He gave it to him, right? He already gave it to him at that point in time. He proclaimed he gave it to him. Let's go to the last place, Zechariah, the 14th chapter. Zechariah, the 14th chapter, and we are going to start at verse 1. Zechariah, the 14th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. So let's see what we're going to do when we get back in the kingdom, because we're doing it now, brothers and sisters. We're doing it now. Zechariah 14 and verse 1. 14 and 1. And verse 1 reads, behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. And of course, I hope I'm one of the many other guys that had made it in the first resurrection that comes to fight with Christ, brothers and sisters, right? That should be the goal of us now, because we are conscious of this thing, right? The people later on, when they find out, the ones that haven't found out yet, and like I said before, while we out here bickering and going back and forth and being divided, these same people that you are sitting here insulting and belittling, them going to be the same people who really are down for God in the Great Tribulation. So you got to think about that, brothers and sisters, right? You can't go out there and just shoot people down, right? Because it might just not be their time yet. And that's what you have to think about, right? So he said he's going to fight against these nations, more specifically the Gentiles, because that's who's going to be ruling the world at that time, right? They're ruling the world right now, right? But when we get into the kingdom, brothers and sisters, what are we going to be doing that we are doing now? Skip down to verse 9. Verse 9. And verse 9 reads, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord and his name one, right? Because when the saints take the kingdom, they're going to rule with Christ for 1,000 years, and they're going to rule forever, brothers and sisters, right? They're going to rule forever. And if you look in the things like Revelation, the first chapter, 5 and 6, and Revelations, the 20th chapter, 4 through 6, that you're going to be kings and priests and rule with Christ for 1,000 years. That is the people that are conscious now. That is what we're striving to be rulers in the Son's kingdom, in the first resurrection, so that we don't have to be in the second resurrection, in the white throne judgment, being judged. We don't want that, brothers and sisters, right? We want to fight for that first resurrection. But once again, what's going to be happening in the Son's kingdom? Skip down to verse 16. Verse 16 reads, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to do what, brothers and sisters? And to keep the Feast of Tabernacle. That's what they're going to do. Why? Because it symbolizes the ingathering. We have come back to our fold, brothers and sisters, and this is the end of the 70 weeks. Right? So, brothers and sisters, I hope you got understanding. I enjoyed it, besides all the interruptions. I hope you got understanding from this lesson. Of course, I'm always willing to answer questions. You know, when you see me out and about, I'm always willing to answer. But once again, brothers and sisters, this is pointing to our ingathering, to our salvation out of captivity from our enemies, brothers and sisters. And that's what we want to show our God, our Messiah, that we have faith that he is going to gather us and get us out of our captivity. Get us out of our fallen state and bring us back to our folds. Once again, I am Cassius Israel, a.k.a. Shazak ben Yehuda. I represent the Walls of Jericho Biblical and Historical Studies. And once again, I thank you for your time, and shalom.